This is Frank, and you're watching part 2 of Power Concepts Excel Top 10. And this time I want to give you some tips and tricks about using tables and filters. So let's get started right away. First thing that I'm always going to do with some information like this is I'm going to turn it into a table with Control-T. And my filters come up, and so this is great. And I can click on here and I can filter, turning off, turning on, and that works good. But I'm going to show you some more complex pieces. Say I want to show a salary of anything greater than 40,000. If I click in here and scroll through, that means I'm going to have to turn off a lot of checkbox and also leave a lot of checkbox on. So in those cases, I don't want to go through that. I'm going to just use number filters. And I can see all these options: equals, not equal to, greater than, every option that you can think of there. And I'm just going to hit greater than 40,000. And it's going to filter for whatever information that I have. Also, remember that if I have the total row, it's going to give me a new total for whatever information that I have. Now I want to show you some keyboard shortcuts that can make life a little faster. The first one is to clear the data. And as you remember from the previous video, that under the data there's a clear filter button, and I've added this to my quick access toolbar, but I want to access this with my keyboard. You're going to notice that if I push Alt, there's all these buttons for navigation, but the one that I'm really interested in is the quick access toolbar. Notice how they number off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm very careful about the order of things, and I have things that I use a lot, like clearing the filters. I'm going to make sure it's within the first 9 options. So when I choose a 6, it's going to clear the data. So that's the first trick, is to add the clear to the quick access toolbar and make sure it's within the first 9. Now if I move over and I go to that same query I just did and go to the salary, my first struggle is how do I open the salary menu? And so what I do is I hold Alt and the down arrow key, and that will pop open the screen for me. Now inside the screen, you're going to notice that every choice has a letter that's underlined. So the first one, for sorting A to Z, the S is underlined. For sorting Z to A, the O is underlined. And if I hit the O, you're going to notice that it sorts the data from largest to smallest. If I hold Alt and the down arrow key, it again opens the data. I'm going to hit S, and it sorts the data from smallest to largest. So Alt down arrow key opens the menu, and then whatever letter I type will take me to that option. So if I want to go to the number filters, I'm just going to type an F. Greater than, it's going to be a G. I can say 40,000. Push enter, and I've quickly filtered without using my mouse. And then to clear my filter, I'm going to hold Alt, and in my case, the number 6, because it's the 6th button on my quick access toolbar. Let's go to review date. Show you some interesting options here. I'm going to hold Alt and the down arrow key. And again, I can turn on and off ranges, but if I'm looking for date filters like, say, next quarter, you can see the F is underlined under date filtered. So I'm going to hit the F. And say I want next quarter. Well, I can see through the list here that that's going to be a Q. And so I hit a Q, and it filters for next quarter. So there's many times I want to filter for last month, last week, year to date, all these things. So I'm going to hit Alt 6, and I can clear this data really, really quickly. Now what about if I ask for a filter like in where I have a field name, like department? So I'm going to hold Alt and the down arrow, and I want to get into that search box. And the keyboard that I need to use to navigate to here is an E. So it opens up the search window, and if I want to search for development, I just begin to type, and the list will shorten as I type. Once I see what I like, I can push enter, and I can just clear that filter, or see that filter. And if I hit Alt and 6, I can clear the filter. I can hit Alt and down, E, and I can search for production, push enter, and I can quickly flip between filters by using these keyboard shortcuts. I can hold Alt and 6 and clear the filter. Now there's another very fast, convenient way to filter, and that is by, if I go to table design I can use slicers. So I'm going to hit Insert Slicer. And a slicer is like a visual filter. And I'm going to say I would like to have a filter for department and grade. And I can click. And it's going to throw these boxes on the screen. And now when I filter for grade 2 or grade 3 or combinations, I can filter very quickly. And I can clear a slicer and clear a slicer. Now these are in a kind of an awkward spot and they're kind of large. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the department and I'm going to slide it into there. And now I'm going to resize it. Now I want to just line it up with this bottom edge, but it's kind of hard to get on the edge. And I'd like it to be exact. So if I hold Alt while I drag, it will snap to the lines. I'm going to grab the right edge and I'm going to drag this out all the way to column E. And you're going to see it snaps to the lines when I hold Alt. So now I've got this button. It looks better on the screen, but it seems counterintuitive because I only can see one button. But you're going to notice a new toolbar across the screen, a slicer toolbar, because I'm on a slicer. If I click off the slicer, no toolbar. Click on the slicer, get my slicer toolbar. I'm going to add 4 columns here because I had 4 departments. So I'll bump that up, and you're going to see now I got 4 buttons. I'm going to just change the color. I'm going to do the same with grade. I'm going to move it here. I'm going to hold Alt to snap it into the grid. I'm continuing to hold Alt. I'm going to make it a little wider. Oops. And I'm going to bump this one up to 5 columns because there's 5 different numbers. I'm going to apply color to keep it interesting. And now I've got these very handy slicers that let me filter very quickly. And I can clear the filters and clear this filter. There's a couple of additional options with slicers that you may be interested in. If I filter for grade 7, you're going to notice that there's only a grade 7 in development and sales and not in admin and production. And I get these grayed out buttons. If you're okay with that, then that's good. In some instances, I don't want to see that. So I'm going to go over here to Slicer Settings, and I can say Hide Items with No Data. Notice I can also change the text for the header, and I can even hide the header altogether. I'm going to choose OK. Oh, forgot to check the box. Hide items with no data. Click here. It's talking when I should have been doing. And you're going to see that now it only shows the topics or the contents that are actually available. I can do the same here. If I choose production, notice that there's no grade 7s. And so the buttons are just going to disappear as I go. So that's one interesting option. You can do slicers. The other one is I have a touchscreen monitor. So here's my cursor. I need to move away, and if I use my finger, I can filter by just clicking on my finger on the screen. And so this is very convenient if I'm making a presentation. But if I want to do multiple selections, well, this is a little challenging. But I can click on one and hold Control and click on another, and I can see production and sales, or development and sales. And I can clear. But when I start using my finger to do the slicing in a presentation, this is hard. So we have these check boxes that change how we interact with the slicer. And if I click on this, it actually turns the button off and then turns on. So this is much easier when I start using my finger to just touch my screen and choose the options that I want. So it's a different way to interact with the slicer. A couple interesting options. Okay, I'm going to get rid of my slicer, so I'm going to click on it. It's just an object, so I just click on the title, have the selection handles there, push delete, and it's gone. I'm going to add a couple more rows across the top here. If you have an impossible situation, say I ask you to show me everybody in the production department that earns more than $30,000 and everybody in the sales that makes less than $30,000. Well, I can go here and make multiple selections, and I can have, say, production and sales. But when I come to the salary part, how can I do both greater than and less than attached to a specific department? It's impossible for me to do this. And so I need something more advanced than that. So I'm going to clear my filter, and I'm going to need to use the advanced filter. To do that, I'm first going to take all of my headings and just copy them. I'm going to put them into this column up here, or this row. And now I can come up with multiple criteria. So, for instance, I'd like to see everybody in production department. Well, this is going to shorten the list, but not everybody in production, only people that are making less than 30,000. And I'd like to see everybody in the development group. Well, not everybody, only people that are making greater than 40,000. And I'd also like to see anybody in grade 7 or grade 8. So I've put in this criteria. Now, if it's in the same row, this would be an AND statement. Every result must satisfy both. If it's in a second row, it's an OR statement. So OR development and greater than 40,000. Or grade 7 or grade 8. If I put the grade 7 into this box, it would have to be development grade 7 greater than 40,000. All AND. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to put this back. Okay, let's apply the filter. So I click into the data on the data tab. I'm going to go to the advanced filter. And the first thing I need to double check is that it selected all of my data. And it did it because I was in the data. The second thing, I'm going to go to the criteria range, and I'm going to select the heading and all the rows. Now at this point it's really important that I don't also include a blank row, because that would mean and every criteria. And so that would be ineffective. So I'm going to click here, and now I can see I've got the data selected and the data range. In this case, I'm going to filter the data in place. If I wish, I can copy this to another location, but it has to be on this sheet. With our new filter function that's being released, you'll be able to put this into another worksheet or even another workbook. I'm going to click OK, and you're going to see that it's filtered for everybody in production who has less than 30, everybody in development that's more than 40, and grade 7 and grade 8. Now how do I see all my data again? Well, I'm going to use my handy clear function. Let's try the assignment. In here, we want to turn the data into a table. I use Control-C. I'm going to add a total column. I'm going to filter for the following. And I see this is an impossible situation with normal tools, so I'm going to put it in here. Greater than or equal to 40,000. And I'm going to say grade 7 and grade 8. Make sure you click into your data. I'm going to go to the Data tab, Advanced Filter. I'm going to make sure that it's selected all of the data. In my criteria range, I'm going to make sure I include all the headings, all of the criteria, and no blank rows. I'm going to filter in place. I'm going to hit OK, and it filters for the results that I want. Those are some great tips on filtering your data.